Good evening, everybody, all our friends, many of our old friends joining us as they frequently do on Thursdays, and many new friends. It's 2 minutes after 9 a.m. on Friday in Tokyo right now, where the Olympics will begin. Which can only mean one thing. It's time for yet another episode of The Art. And as I will mention, in addition to broadcasting live on our Zoom channel, we're being simulcast on Facebook Live and Twitter, on YouTube, and elsewhere. And as we've also mentioned, soon we will be seen by hundreds and hundreds of thousands of our brothers and sisters who are currently incarcerated on tablets that currently are in about 430 different jails and prisons around the country. The Yard is a production of Commissary Club, which is the first social network for the 70 million Americans with criminal records, along with their friends and family. And this is a mobile app that's available on both iOS and Android. And I urge you, please, we have not yet officially launched it, but if you're the type who likes to see movies before your friends, and if you're a foodie who likes to go to the restaurant before other people have heard about it, please download our app, which of course is free. Please tell us what you think about it. Please, whatever you think about it, give it 5 stars and write something nice about it. My name is Richard Bronson, of course. I am the founder and CEO of Commissary Club, as well as 70 Million Jobs, which is the national employment platform for folks with records. I am joined, as I generally am, with a couple of great friends and teammates. Speaking of the Olympics, of course, I'm joined by my friend and the big man, former NBA LA Laker great Seth Sundberg, who still is well thought of within the Olympic community. Among other things, I believe he still holds the Olympic record for most offensive goaltendings in a game. Is that true, Seth?
That is actually probably the closest thing to the truth out of all of what you just said, for sure.
Okay, good. Joining Seth, of course, is our dear friend and also a champion in his own right, champion rapper to the stars and entrepreneur, Divine. Hey, D, how are you tonight, sir?
Peace, Richard. Great to be here, Seth. Nico, to the audience. Great to be here again.
Thanks for being here. And of course, the very fabulous Adrian Hatter behind the scenes is pulling the strings. So thank you, Adrian, for being with us again. We got a lot going on at Commissary Club and 70 Million Jobs. I mean, just you have no idea how much we got going on right now. And it's all good, although it's probably gonna drive us crazy. Our employment business, which is 70 million jobs, and which is what we started with initially, we were doing very well pre-pandemic. But when the pandemic hit, of course, companies laid off all our people and they stopped new hiring. And for a year and a half, we were basically out of business. So that was bad. But over the last month and a half, our employment business has exploded, like triple what it was pre-pandemic. Because, of course, companies across the board are finding it really difficult finding people to fill positions. And, out of, probably mostly desperation, they have come to us because we are the only national employment platform for this population. And we have millions of folks in our community. And we're getting a lot of people, a lot of good jobs right now. We have more business, frankly, than we can handle, and we've been turning away business, which is sort of depressing in a way, but it's also exciting. Mostly exciting because the population that we serve has options to work. And that's the most important thing. We are launching officially our mobile app, Commissary Club, as I mentioned. We're doing that in partnership with Meek Mill, who's a well-known hip hop artist who's very involved with criminal justice, and his record label, Rock Nation. And we have all kinds of cool stuff that's going on with that. And the fact that our platform will soon be in prisons is very, very exciting for us, so that we can connect with and work with men and women, not wait until they're already released, but that they can get a jump on the game so that their chances of having a successful reentry are optimized. So it's all really great stuff. Back to the yard. What we try to do is try to share the experience of what it's like to be in prison, at least a portion of it, the time that folks get out onto the yard. The yard is that one place, it's a reprieve, it's an hour or 2 hours of sunshine maybe and fresh air where, you know, you can kind of put the prison behind you and all its brutality and ugliness and hang out with your friends and laugh and fool around and make believe you're a human being. That normally we confine the conversation, as you know, to that in-prison experience, but you know, we have a guest on tonight that I'll introduce in a minute. He's a great writer. He is a well-known author, and he writes about the drug world, which at one point was near and dear to my heart, I have to admit. And as a result, you know, we're all very, very interested to hear what he has to say about his work, because he's done some amazing things since he's gotten out of prison. Of course, if you have questions or comments, utilize the chat button at the bottom of the screen. And if you have something really compelling that you'd like to share, let Adrian know. And from time to time, we can bring somebody into the conversation. Lastly, I always try to paint the picture of how truly easy it is for even a good person to get caught up in the criminal justice system, how tenuous our freedoms are. You know, when I was in prison, I was struck by the fact that pretty much everybody there were just very normal people who maybe just made one bad mistake and their life just took on this very strange, weird arc, you know, and that they sucked in their family, their friends, and, you know, had all kinds of repercussions. As it relates to arrests, I just read a figure today. Every 23 seconds in the United States, someone is arrested for drug possession. Every 23 seconds. Many of them are for cannabis, for pot. Cannabis has already been decriminalized in many states in this country, and many more are coming. I used to live in California where you could walk into a store, it was like walking into Neiman Marcus, except they weren't selling, you know, Armani, they were selling, you know, pot. And yet in other states, people are routinely arrested for pot. And we've had guests on the yard who had life sentences for pot, you know, and did serious, serious time behind that. But it's not just pot. Oregon decriminalized drug possession of any kind a few years ago, and Oregon doesn't seem to be any the worse for it. It seems like it's not so much what you get arrested for, but rather when you get arrested. Because today it may be illegal, but tomorrow or next month or next year, it may be decriminalized. It's almost like it's fashion, you know, like, and fashions change all the time. One season you wear long skirts, and the next season you wouldn't be caught dead in that look. The same thing is true, you know, with drugs. There was a war on drugs, and that was the fashion statement then. Drugs are evil, and so are the people who use them and sell them. Today, cannabis, you know, has infinite healthful benefits, I understand. It's also a great source for tax revenue for states. And very respectable people, academics, business people, they microdose on LSD every day for better performance. The club drug ketamine, Special K, now that's an FDA approved drug for treating depression. You know, it makes me wonder, what will they be taking on the runways in Paris next season? But this isn't just an American problem. Take our guest for tonight's The Yard, for example. His name is Niko Virabhv. I'm pretty sure the only part of that name I got right was Nico. Nico was born in Leningrad in Russia, and he was a drug dealer in the UK. He was arrested and he was given a 3-year sentence, I believe, did 2.5 years in prison in the UK. But like many people were sent to prison, he discovered his calling in life, I guess, while he was there. And he went on to write a seminal book about the international drug trade. The book is called Dopeworld, and it's been called The Definitive and Global Exploration into the War on Drugs and the Effect It's Having on Humanity. So that's a lot to say about a book. He calls himself a geek rather than a gangster. But this guy knows everything there is to know about the business of drugs all over the world. And I'm sure he's got a lot that he can share with us. Nico, thanks so much for joining us.
Nico.
Thank you, Nico.
Hey, thanks, guys. Thanks for having me. First off, just wanna apologize for my weird accent. So, born in Russia, I learned English in the States from Batman and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and then I spent most of my life here in the UK. So I'm kind of all over the place. No one really knows. It's just, you know, generic Bond villain accent.
Well, we all understand you perfectly. You know, Nico is, in fact, right now in the UK, in London, I believe, where it's something like 1:15 a.m. So thank you for staying up late with us, Nico. We really appreciate it. Just to get things. Sorry?
I'm a night owl. I don't go to bed till late. So, you know, you guys are just in my prime movie watching time.
Okay.
You're a better man than me. I'd be passed out by now. I'm too old for this shit.
We hope you'll find us at least equally entertaining. So you're a Russian guy in UK, in the United States. You did time in the UK. What's the difference between prison in Russia, the United States, and the UK?
Like the main thing, like obviously I haven't been to prison in the States, but I've got a lot of friends who have. Like, for example, you know, Seth Sundberg, I think he might have been on this show a couple of times. He's the one who put me through to Adrian anyway. And I think it's definitely a lot cozier over here. First of all, everyone gets a TV in their cell. You get this weird like little welcome pack with some coffee, because you know, tea, not some coffee, some tea, sorry, because you know, like tea is a human right in the UK. We have to have tea. Like, I guess, like, I haven't been to French prisons, but they must give them like free baguettes or something. I think every country has got to have like its own little thing.
Probably worth committing a crime.
What thing they give us then?
Sorry?
What's the archetypical American, you know, must-have if you're in prison?
A bar of soap and a roll of toilet paper.
That's it. Yeah, toilet paper and soap. That's it.
Yeah, right. Toilet paper and soap. It's all American.
American.
The very first place I was, it was like a newly built private prison, and I'm not gonna say I loved it because it still sucked dick. It was still a prison, but I really appreciate later on. We had like our own shower in our cell. We had not satellite TV, but like, we had like 80 channels in our TV, and one of them was actually like one of the you know, like one of those porn channels where you can call up the girls and they'll talk dirty to you. So what some guys, oh yeah, and we had phones in our cell as well. So what some guys did was they added that station's phone number onto like their list of allowed calls, yeah. And then they just call up the girls at night from jail.
Wow. It sounds more like
Classic criminals.
Yeah.
But I think they stopped all that shit after the newspapers found out.
It's very civilized, even in prison there.
Yeah, but I mean, we got a lot of problems as well. Like I think since when I first got there, it's got a lot worse. So what happened was with the government we have now, they started putting in a lot of cutbacks. So what happened was in our prison, in the second prison I was, not the nice one with the showers and the porn girls and everything else. The second like shitty old prison, they basically had to fire half the staff. So that means
Yeah.
there wasn't enough guards to watch everyone all the time, right? So what happened was half the prison got shut down, just stayed in their cells all day, like for 23 and a half hours a day. They only got like half an hour to go out onto the yard because that's like mandated by law, and then that's it. Like dinner in your cell, everything else in your cell. While the other half, they get to go and do lessons. They get to go to the carpentry shop, like whatever the fuck else they'd normally be doing, right?
Mm.
So like I later learned that like I thought at first I thought, I was just being a little bitch about it because it's my first time in prison. I'm like this middle class kid. I don't know what's going on, but it actually was bad because I later learned that the suicides across the whole UK in that year where the cutbacks happened, I think they almost doubled. So
Yes.
there's some serious shit going on because like when you're in the cell, and I think the worst thing about prison is just like when you're in your cell and you're just alone with your thoughts. Like if you're a bit like sad or stressed out on the outside, you can just like call your buddies or go for a walk. I don't know, go bowling, whatever the fuck you want to do. You can't do that in your cell. In your cell, like you're stuck with what you're thinking about unless you got that self discipline. But I think that comes with time, and that's not what I had.
Yeah. Do you know the United States is the only country in the world that puts juveniles into solitary confinement? They
Oh,
don't do
really?
it in North Korea or China or Russia or Afghanistan or any of these other lovely places, but we do it here. And inevitably, these poor kids go nuts, because just what you're describing, 23 and a half hours alone, particularly when your mind is supposed to be developing and taking in all the stimulus, and there's just none of it there. It's really just, it's an irony of gruesome proportions. So you came from a
I
middle
just
class.
realized another. I just realized another big difference. We don't have conjugal visits. No one in the UK knows what conjugal visits are. We're like monks in there, man.
Well,
Wait a
Like
second.
nothing
in
happens.
the
I
Fed,
didn't have any conjugal
yeah,
visits. Did
no,
you?
that's a state prison thing. All three of us did Fed time, and
Yeah.
Okay.
We didn't, we
doesn't
didn't get
happen.
those privileges,
Yeah,
those
no,
Yeah.
fringe benefits.
Only conjugal I had
Oh,
was
really?
it was of a very personal and private nature.
unintentional conjugal visit.
That was
Unintentional. Yeah.
It was quite
Shit.
intentional. It was planned out.
My
I had
next
a
charge would have
very
been murder.
lovely romantic evening planned for myself. So let me ask you, you came from, Niko, you mentioned you came from a middle class family. You hadn't
Yeah.
had any run-ins with the law. You were dealing some drugs. Do you remember like that moment when you first stepped into prison for the very first time? Like what was that whole, that moment? Is it frozen in your memory forever?
I mean, I'm not gonna lie. It felt kind of weird. Like it didn't really feel very real. Like I could hear like the door slam shut behind me, like the metallic door slam shut. Like I know, like the first 3 weeks or so, oh, this is just this new thing that's happening. It's like this new experience. Like it didn't really click. And then about 3 weeks later, that's when it's like, oh, okay, I'm actually not getting out of here for a while. And
Uh-huh.
that's when I started getting kind of depressed. But the first 3 weeks were in that nice prison with the porn TVs and the showers and everything. So like I don't know if that helped or not. Probably got my
Amazing what
hopes up too
qualifies.
much.
How could you get depressed?
You get depressed when you get your phone bill.
Yeah, who would have thought? Your cable bill was so high.
How's money work in the States? Do you just have like this sort of commissary account and then everything comes out of there, like
Yeah.
phone bills and everything?
Yeah, there's
That-
two.
Yeah, we have like
that
a
you
card. We have a
fund
card.
it, right?
Mm.
And either you fund it or your loved ones fund it, and it goes up to like in the Fed, I think it was $300 was the most that you could have. And, once a week, you go to the commissary and you fill out a form of all the different stuff you want. And I still have that bag. They give you this mesh nylon bag so they can see I don't know what they want to see, the tuna fish.
The laundry
there or
bag.
something. The laundry bag, exactly. That's what you use. And in the United States, cans of mackerel are very, very popular as like the unit of barter currency.
Get
So,
that protein.
yeah, exactly. Did they have mackerel in where you were?
Now I had the classic tuna and noodles combo.
Yeah.
What did they
Would you
use
use
that
for money? Would you use the trade for money?
Bro, I was just remembering as you guys are telling about commissary. There was this one time there was a fight and this guy got his 2 front teeth knocked out, and we were just thinking like if he just put them under his pillow at night, he'd get a little message from a tooth fairy saying $2 is being added to your commissary.
Oh, God.
That's not funny.
But sorry, what was the
That's a little dark and brutal.
What did you say before I talk about
it's hilarious.
Let me ask you, was there, when you were going in there, it doesn't sound like it was a very dangerous place, at least this first place, but was there a fear or a sense of?
It's basically like where I was in prison in London, right? And like the main fights in London, they're between like street gangs in London who got beef with each other from the outside. And it's usually like different parts from London, like, oh, you're from Bricks, I'm from Peckham, fuck you, let's go. But
same thing in the States.
Yeah. Uh-oh, he froze up.
Uh-oh, you froze a little bit there. Nico, you there?
Frozen in time.
I was shook of everyone else. I didn't look shook. So I know I just kind of tried to get along with everyone, really. But it definitely does happen. And yeah, I saw fights break out like every week almost. I remember there's in London, one of the big beefs in London that's been going on for almost 20 years now. It's between the 2 Somali gangs in North London, like the Camden Somalis and the Tottenham Somalis. And then there's this one like Somali guy who came in and he wasn't affiliated in any gangs at all. He didn't know anything about this shit. He just like lost his job, then he held up a gas station or something. And so he was at the mosque, and like one of the Somali guys said, "Oh yeah, where are you from?" I'm from Camden. And he just beat the shit out of him right there, just right in the mosque in front of the imam. This guy didn't know anything. He wasn't to do with any gangs, but like sometimes in London, it's like if you're from a certain area, you're like perceived as being affiliated with a certain crew. You know what I mean?
We call that on site in the States.
It's on site. It's on site, baby.
Whenever
on site.
It just goes down on site. So yeah, that's
it goes down on site.
Crazy.
On site.
Yeah.
Oh man. So you were arrested for drug dealing, right?
Yeah. I got a funny arrest story as well.
Please share it.
So one of the things the London police like to do, right, is go on the metro. We call it the tube in London, but you know, metro, same thing. It's like they like to stand on top of the escalators, the metro, with their dogs, and it's just an easy way to catch people out without them really having to do much police work. You know, like they either the dog sniffs them or they make it like they can train the dog to just like sit down and indicate, even if they just want to search. You know what I mean? So for that reason, I'd always tell my customers, don't take anything on the metro. There's dogs on the metro. And then one day, I was just kind of in a hurry, and I just put a couple of wraps of MDMA in my back pocket, and also like I also sold some weed to these Greek guys earlier that day, so I might have had a bit of a whiff of ganja on me, and yeah, I thought, what are the odds that on this day, at this metro station, there's gonna be dogs? Fuck it, let's go. And I was wrong. And I didn't actually have that much on me. I think I had about 3 grams of MDMA on me, but because they were in half-gram packs, it looked like 6 grams. So that gave them. I couldn't just say, "Oh, this is just for me" anymore. That like this obviously wasn't just for me. And then they used that to they took me to the station and they used that to get a search warrant on my apartment. And then my housemate, my housemate, he'd ordered a pizza half an hour before the cops came. So the pizza man and the cops arrived at the same time. There was just a very confused pizza man going up the block of stairs, seeing all these cops taking away massive bags of evidence, you know, like cash and dope and all that shit.
Damn.
Yeah, that's
Did
it,
they
man.
think
That's
he
a
was like making a
stupid
delivery
move
of
on my
drugs?
part. Sorry?
Did they think the pizza guy was also making a delivery of drugs? Was he
They were
like,
they're being sarcastic about it. Like, oh, you ordered some lunch, did you? Huh? Shut up,
God.
cops.
It's some lunch. Fucking
Yeah.
coppers.
And your clientele was just, you know, middle class people, kids,
Yeah,
who were you
it's
selling to?
mostly students because I was at
Kids.
university then, so I just go to a lot of house parties, you know, like join, stand outside, and like everyone sort of gravitated to me slowly but surely. And then I'd be like, oh yeah, give me a shout. Here's my card.
Card, huh?
That was my
So,
sort of MO.
Yeah, the
so-
card,
but
Richard.
you were,
Was it Mr. Happy? Did it say Mr. Happy on the card?
I've got the. Have you guys heard of someone called Mr. Nice?
Mr. Nice?
Howard
No.
Marks? Oh, okay, that hasn't crossed the Atlantic yet. Okay, I just have the same
What
agent
is-
as Mr. Nice. He was it's like
Oh.
a famous Welsh hash smuggler in the 70s, like back when it was like mostly a hippie business. And he wrote a book. It became a film. But yeah, I've got the same agent as him.
Oh, cool.
Gotcha.
all right. So what, I mean, you were dabbling in drugs. I mean, it wasn't your whole life, I'm sure. You know, it was a way to make a couple of bucks and, you know, you made friends and whatever.
Oh, Jane Jones, she found it. Check that link out later. Thanks, Jane.
Mr. Nice.
Anyway, sorry,
Thanks,
what?
Jane.
When did the whole drug world become like central? I mean, when did that really become your major interest? How did that happen?
So basically, when I was in jail, I was thinking, obviously, like I said before, you know, you got a lot of time to think. And when I wasn't thinking about useless shit and wanting to kill myself, I was also thinking about how did I get here? What's like the sort of like the bigger picture? I mean, obviously, the immediate reason why I was there is because I was a dumbass and I didn't follow my own advice and I got caught. But like I was thinking more about the kind of the secondary thing because like
I think you got to twist it, man. I think the first thing is selling the drugs, and then I think the second thing is being a dumbass and getting caught.
True that. All right, it's like the third stage along. I was thinking about the third stage along. I read a lot of books in the library. One of the few good things about that shitty second prison was they had a decent library, and they had a book there called El Narco, which is about the Mexican drug war. But that's what really kind of got me thinking because the kind of people that I'd usually sell to, and it was mostly like stuff like ecstasy and weed, you know. So like I didn't really see the kind of the worst side of it. Like I wasn't really doing to anyone addicts or anything like that. So it didn't really. Obviously, I learned more about that other side of it later on when I got out and started doing my research. But at the time, it didn't feel like I was really doing anything that bad. So I was thinking like, why? I was basically thought of myself kind of as like a bartender, you know. So I was thinking like, and also like I was studying history. So like, obviously there's a time in America and still is in some countries around the world where basically alcohol was an illegal drug, right?
Yeah.
And it's still the same in some other countries like India and Iran and stuff like that. So I was thinking like, why do we make that distinction that which obviously like we know alcohol can lead to some very bad, we know cocaine can lead to some very bad things. We also know alcohol can lead to some very bad things. So like, why is this one okay and this one is not, when they're both clearly like dangerous things that you shouldn't fuck around with too much? And yeah, that's what really set me off. That's what started off my journey.
That was the spark to change him.
Yeah, I just kind of figured, I might as well make the most out of a shitty situation, try to turn my negative into a positive, and because like I said, I was a bit of a nerd. I was a student at university, so obviously I had this like thirst for knowledge as well.
But what was the negative you were gonna make into a positive? What specifically did you
Just
have
being
in
in prison,
mind?
that's the whole negative.
Pretty negative, yeah.
I mean,
No, the negative I
comparing-
get. What
Yeah.
were you gonna do positive?
Just improve myself and acquire knowledge, and then see if I can use that knowledge to help others, help myself and help others, and at the same time, I was writing a lot of letters to my friends on the outside, and like I said, like most of my friends, they're not from like from where crime and going to prison is like a normal thing. So like they're all very interested in knowing what is it like being in prison, because it's just such an alien idea to them.
Right.
And that's what kind of that all came together, sort of like my curiosity about my situation, and also like my writing, and that's what eventually led me to write a book.
So tell us about the book. What was the goal in writing it, and the path that I guess you're still on, like really investigating globally, the drug world, and from a socio-political, economic sort of perspective, right?
Yeah. So I was doing a bit of writing and blogging, but it's mostly like small stuff that nobody really read. I know it just kind of started coming together in my spare time, because I started saving up some money, started going traveling. The first like big trip I had was 2016. I went backpacking around South America. I was in Brazil, Cuba, Colombia, Peru, and some other places. In Colombia, I went to Pablo Escobar's old ranch, Hacienda Nápoles, which is a fucking weird ass place. It's a children's theme park now.
Oh, of
It's like
course.
this old,
Jesus Christ.
like the biggest like mafia boss in the world. Like his old house is a theme park, and it's full of like these weird ass like dinosaur sculptures, and you think that's something they put in for the kids, but apparently not. Apparently that's something Pablo put in like a weird like coke induced fit. He's like, I'm gonna make my house into Jurassic Park. And I know it's just seeing weird shit like that, and realizing that there's a whole world out there. Yeah.
What would surprise people most about what you learned about the global drug trade? What assumptions do we have that you could, disavow us from holding? What do we know that's wrong?
I think the main thing that I learned was that it's not really based on any medical criteria, like which drugs are legal, which drugs are illegal. Because like I said, like cocaine and alcohol can both fuck you up, right? But for some reason we made this arbitrary distinction, and it's the same around the world. They just have slightly different reasons for it. So in America, for example, like that distinction was originally made because of racism. Like in the early 20th century, they really didn't like Chinese people or Black people or Mexicans. So they associated Chinese people with opium, Mexicans with marijuana. In fact, that's why you guys call it marijuana. We call it cannabis here in the UK. But you guys call it marijuana because, marijuana, Tijuana sounds a bit more suspect. Sounds a bit south of the border. And Black people were associated with cocaine. Like they were, like New York Times was spreading rumors that it made them, like, it made.
Oh, you're frozen again.
Again.
You're frozen again. Divine, so you were involved in dealing drugs back back in your day, were you interested in drugs? Sort of, you know, I mean, were drugs fascinating to you, or were they just a product, a commodity for you? Divine, you're mute, Divine. You're muted.
Uh-oh, we lost, there you go.
Divine, you're muted. All right, it's going to be me and Seth, I guess.
I don't do drugs. Hey, Richard, I do have a question for you though. So, and Nico's there. We'll get it. Adrian, can you get Nico back in the main room? So like you just moved to Florida. You know, you mentioned like weed is, you know, is Nordstrom's, you know, in California. I mean, is it the same out there? Is it
Here, I'm in Miami now, and you know, I used to live here in the 90s, and I used to actually own a nightclub on South Beach. And at that time in Miami, nightclubs were really a big thing. And you know, people only first went out for the evening at like 2 a.m. And there's no fucking way you go out at 2 a.m.
Right.
unless, you know, you really have mega dosed yourself. And I dare say that every single person at my club, of 2,000 people may have been there, every one of them was high on something.
Yeah.
You know, and after all, you had to be, because it was like 900 degrees and everyone's like dripping and on top of each other. If you're not high, you know, like why would you? You know, honestly, that was the way I looked at it. So, you know, I mean, the music was boring. You know, you couldn't talk to anybody. The air conditioning was always broken. You know, so why are you there? You know?
Yeah. Nico, you made
I don't know if it's still here, if it still goes on.
That's how the game works. You know how the game works, bro.
I do know, and I saw it firsthand. And then when I went to prison, I had a lot of guys came up to me, because I was in prison in Florida, and a lot of guys that came up to me who knew me, I didn't know them, but they said, yeah, I used to deal drugs at your club, or you know, whatever. And yeah, you know, without drugs,
exactly,
no scene at all.
Yeah.
So I assume that's still going on, Seth. I don't know.
Yeah. Nico, you made a distinction earlier between welcome back, first of all, and between you know, alcohol and drugs, and like and it's kind of a, you know, in the States you mentioned that it was based on, you know, different ethnicities and you know, shutting that down. I mean, you know, there's this huge thing about,
I get it 100%. I saw Mike's background, and I kind of got concerned when I saw his background when Marlon announced that he was a new GP.
Do you talking to us? Oh,
Divine.
yeah.
Who are you talking to, Divine?
What happened?
Yeah. Anyway.
So weed is you know, weed is becoming legal in most of the states now here in the States. How is it out there? And who made the decision that marijuana is, you know, okay now? You know what I mean? If it was Tijuana versus marijuana, you know, like how is it out there in the UK and you know, and in Russia too? If you know, I'm curious about that as well.
So here in the UK, we're kind of like in a weird situation where the government's trying to do one thing and the police are trying to do something else. And weirdly, it's like the police are actually the ones trying to decriminalize, whereas the government's not moving at all. But you have like a bunch of individual police chiefs around the country are saying like, fuck it, you know, like we're not gonna chase
No, I'm
teenage
definitely gonna push
sinners
him
around
on.
the
That's my
parking
goal. I'm
lot.
gonna push him on hard. I got him easy.
D.
Sorry?
Divine seems to be having two conversations going on at once.
No, you going out. Say it again.
Yeah, anyway, so that's what's happening there. In Russia, man, it's a lot worse because in Russia you can't even talk about like the pros and cons of weed openly, because there's like this law ages ago called like you might have heard about in the news, called like the gay propaganda law, which basically means you can't say nice things about gay people in public. Like being gay isn't illegal, but you can't be like pushing for gay marriage in the news or some shit like that, right? So you have the same thing. They have another thing now called narco propaganda, which is basically like you can't really talk about drugs in any way except drugs are bad. But one thing that's quite interesting about what's happening in Russia is no one buys like face to face from a dealer anymore. It all goes over the dark web.
Interesting.
But as in the dark web, like in America or in the UK, it's like you pay in Bitcoins, or I think it's Monero now that people are using. Like, so you pay with the cryptocurrency, right? And then it just gets delivered to your house. So in Russia, our post system sucks. Like you can't get, if you live in a big block of flats, the postman's not going to walk all the way up the stairs to deliver your package. Just going to leave it at the mail depot. Obviously, no one wants to go. Like if it got to your house, you can say, "Oh, I didn't know who's sending me all this dope. They're trying to set me up." Whereas if you go to the post office and you sign for it, like you're not getting away with that shit.
Yeah.
So what happens in Russia is you send them over the crypto, and you get put on this little Easter egg hunt. So like they'll send you the coordinates on like Google Maps where they've hidden it. And they show you they send you these photographs with like red arrows like pointing the way. So like you'll like go to the park and it'll be like under the third bench on your left or whatever. And there's first of all, there's like a whole bunch of kids going around parks hiding little stashes everywhere.
Yeah.
And there's like a bunch of other kids walk around digging under trees and under bins and stuff looking for it. It's a weird ass scene.
We had this thing a couple years ago, and I was in San Francisco at the time, and it was Pokemon Go. Did that get out there? And people are just losing their brains in the middle of everything, like, and they're like following and they're running in groups, and I'm like, what is happening to the world right now? And I gotta imagine that's the same thing that's going on out there in Russia, where kids are just burying shit and planting shit and doing all that. It's like, what is going on with all these kids running around?
It's the Pokemon Go of Russian crack.
But yeah, exactly, the Russian Pokemon Go. Jesus Christ.
You know a lot about it. I mean, honestly, were you involved in the whole Pokemon Go thing?
I mean, I was in a niche group of Pokemon Go's for 7-footers. It was a hidden underground 7-foot Pokemon Go group. We were stealthy, we were slick, and we were dangerous.
You were, and good looking. So Nico, in your travels, were you ever in danger? You must have been in some dangerous situations, poking around where you shouldn't have been poking, right? Talking about poking.
Well, usually like I always tell people straight up like who I am and what I'm about to avoid trouble. But there was 2 times, I think. No, there's 3 times. 3 times and I felt kind of So the first time was in the Philippines. So I don't know how much you guys know about the Philippines, but they have this crazy president there called Duterte, who's basically like Asian Trump times 10. And basically his whole thing was I'm just gonna kill everybody who like sells drugs and uses drugs. And like when he was doing his election campaign, people were thinking like, oh yeah, he's just saying that, he's like any other politician, he's full of shit. 5 years and 30,000 extrajudicial executions by death squads later, and he really wasn't fucking joking, man. But I got a local journalist to introduce me to one of the hitmen that the police hired to do their dirty work, and I was just sat. It was like in the back of this karaoke bar, in the back room of this karaoke bar, and I was just there. I think like halfway through, he like pulls out this pistol from his backpack, starts waving around, and like the gun barrel just passed by my face. I'm like, I really fucking hope no one told him what my old job was.
Yeah. No kidding. I mean, when you're in the back of a karaoke bar, though, nothing ever good happens at the back of a karaoke.
Nothing ever good happens at a karaoke bar, period.
Well, including music.
Yeah, exactly.
That's funny.
So, how long did it take you to research your book?
About 2.5 years, something like that. But now I get annoyed when I read it now, because now I look back, I keep thinking of little things I could have done better. You know what I mean? I think it's the same if you're like making music or you're painting, or like you always think like, I can do something else. But I don't know, Divine, you want to weigh in on this? Oh, Divine's muted. All right, Divine can't weigh in on this. But yeah, like, but I guess that just gives me more idea for more ideas for another book, you know. So you
Yeah.
Are you working
gotta
on
make
a
the
new
list
book?
of it. Sorry,
Are you working on a new book?
I'm working on 2 new books. Yeah. So
Can you tell
one
us
of
about
them's gonna be
them?
called How to Break Out of Jail, and I figure even if it sucks and I fuck the book up and I put no effort in it, people buy it just for the title. I think I nailed the title. But it's basically going to be stories of different jailbreaks around the world, like El Chapo and that French guy who keeps flying out on his helicopter, and stories
Right.
like that.
So that's one book. What's the other?
The other one's called Bristol Man. It's more local. It's about the sort of like the kind of like the drugs and crime scene in my hometown here in the UK. Because I didn't actually grow up in London. I grew up in a smaller town about 100 kilometers away, and like a lot of the books about crime here in England, they're always about like the big cities like London and or Manchester or Glasgow in Scotland. And I just wanted to do something else, you know, small town crime.
What's the difference between small town crime and big town crime? Is there a primary thing that's
Well,
like,
first
oh
of
yeah,
all, we're just the city that's mostly known for, you know that movie Chicken Run.
No.
oh
Banksy or Massive Attack.
no.
So we're mostly known for that. Whereas we're also like the first city in the UK or in England, sorry, to have armed police walking the streets, because our cops aren't armed. That's one big difference with the States. Most cops don't carry weapons.
Yep.
I want to ask you, what's the most positive takeaway you have from prison? Like your whole prison experience. Mostly everybody deals with it's like a negative experience, right? But there's always like a positive underlying thing that people take away from prison and use to change their life. I've done it. Richard has done it. Seth has done it. What is it for you? What was it for you?
I think the main one's my sense of risk has changed, you know,
Yeah.
because, you know, when I was a younger guy, I thought, you know, like nothing's gonna happen to me.
Right.
I just thought like for some reason I'd just be like the lucky guy that gets away with it, and like some prisoners, like something like some of the kids I went to school with, they end up in prison. I just thought, they're idiots. That's not gonna happen to me, and then it happened to me. And yeah, I guess that was the idiot. But then it's also like something you can learn from as well, you know. You learn that you're more fragile. You know what your limits are more. So in that way, I think I've grown as a person, and I also don't look down. I try not to be so judgmental. Not only people like who've been in prison, but also people with like mental health problems, because I suffered from mental health problems when I was in prison. You know, like I was talking about being in the cell really fucked with my mind. So like it's helped me put myself in other people's shoes more.
But you also learned to write. That's where you started writing.
Yeah. That's another thing.
But what you just said, I mean, it's like part humility, it's part respect of other people, not being judgmental.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I was kind of a judgmental prick back in the day.
Me too.
Me too.
Richard still might be actually.
What's that?
I said Richard still might be actually.
Old habits die hard.
Really. I'd like to think I've changed. But it's funny. What would you tell? Do you come without telling any secrets, of course, but do you come in contact with guys either you know, who used to run with when you were dealing drugs, or new people who you know are doing that? Do you have advice to them? You know, do you try to
Like,
deter them?
don't do it. Prison
What?
sucks. Don't do it. Prison
Yeah.
sucks. Don't do it.
What do you tell them?
I don't know. I mean, like most of the guys who I work with, like I have my own like little ring in at the university, at the college, right? So I was kind of like the middle guy. Like I'd have there was like some guys that I got wholesale from, and then like I did some stuff myself. Then I had like some guys who did like some runs when I was too lazy or whatever. So I'd give them like 2 or 3 ounces. I'd be like, all right, fuck it, you take care of it this weekend. But one thing I noticed is most of those guys who were in like my immediate circle, not so much some of the guys who are on the periphery, but like the guys who I'm most in touch with, right? They've actually managed to, most of them have like pretty good jobs now. So they've kind of managed to quit on their own accord. They managed to get out just in time. Maybe I don't need to tell them anything because they see what happened to me anyway.
Yeah.
So, you know, it didn't have to be said.
Yeah, you're the best example.
So in a way, I kind of set an example inadvertently to all my buddies.
The sacrificial lamb.
Yeah. But there was a couple guys. I think one guy, he only just got out. He got caught with some crack, some ecstasy, and a shotgun. So yeah, he's back in. No, he just got out, I think. But he's doing well as well, you know. He's the only black guy I've met who speaks Russian, weirdly, because he studied in Ukraine because he was a medical student. The first time I met him, he was like speaking to me in fluent Russian. I was just weirded out totally.
So he just got out. So this brings up a question, you know, again about kind of the differences between the states and you know, and overseas legal situations. So how does like here, most people when they get out, they're on probation, whether it's state or whether it's federal, and it can be anywhere from, you know, 1 year, most of it's 3 years. I mean, people have been on lifetime probation, you know, after they've been released. So I mean, yeah, no, it definitely sucks. Is that the same system? I mean, there's a whole issue with prison, but there's also like this sub issue of probation, and I know a lot of reform is happening here, you know, to kind of make that more common sense, I guess, probation than anything. Is how does it work out there?
I don't know if you guys have that over in the States, but because I got out, I had quite a short sentence, right? Well, I think like less than 5 years, you're allowed to do this. And I got out a little earlier on top of that, just for good behavior and stuff. I didn't start any fights. You know, there was one time where I almost got a bit of extra time. That was from the Hooch Scandal. I don't know what you call, like the alcohol, what you call prison
Hooch.
alcohol.
It's called Hooch, for sure.
Yeah,
that's the same everywhere.
The Hoochgate scandal. I was basically accused of being the ringleader. These guys, they were making so it's like a prison tradition every year, just before Christmas, they start brewing this shit out of sugar and fruit and bread and like whatever we can find. I wasn't the one brewing it, but my cell was supposed to be like the bar. That's where they were handing it out to everyone. And I went to the gym, so I had an alibi. But then they fucking did it in a stupid way. They all piled into my cell at once instead of coming in one by one. So obviously on the guards, they're watching the cameras. They can see something's going on. They can see like, I don't know, there's either a fight or an orgy or some shit is happening in my cell.
Yeah.
And then I got fucked because I got in solitary for a few days after that. But then eventually they couldn't prove anything because I was at the gym, so I could say I had nothing to do with it. Like there was like 33 of us all together on the Hoochgate case.
Wow.
I think only 2 guys actually got busted because one of them got drunk and started telling the guards to go fuck themselves. And the other guy, they actually found all the empty bottles and bits of bread and shit in his cell.
Jesus.
But the rest of them, just because they went in the cell, they couldn't prove that they were drinking. Like
Right.
they could have come into the cell to tell everyone else to
Anything,
stop
right,
drinking for all
exactly.
they know.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. So we all got away with it, apart from those two
Good
guys.
job.
But I
Good
can't-
job.
Yeah, good job.
Nico, hey Nico, Jane, who is a friend of ours and joins us pretty much every week, she asks a question. Was there any particular factor that accounts for your relatively short sentence? Are drug laws much more lax in the UK, for example?
I think it helped that I managed to sell most of my stash before they went over to my apartment. So I didn't have like what I'd normally have. It did mean though that I had a lot of cash in the apartment, which I'm never gonna see again. I know what was interesting. I didn't put this in the book for legal reasons, because then it'd be like I don't want any more trouble than I was in already. But I know that I had at least $6,000, so I don't know how much that is in US dollars, probably like $10,000 or something in my apartment, right? But in court they declared that they only found $3,000. So I'm hoping that at least some of that went to pay for some cops kids like college degree or something.
Wow.
You know, I hope it went towards a good cause and not the policeman's annual picnic.
Yeah. Do you should drugs be decriminalized? What's your thoughts on that?
Drugs or
Drugs in general.
I think
Oh.
there's like a difference between legalization and decriminalization. Decriminalization, that just means you don't get punished if you have just like something for yourself, right? But it's still illegal, so you still can't go to a shop and buy it like you can buy a can of beer. So I think all drugs should be decriminalized. When it comes to legalizing, you're on some tricky territory because like I don't know how you would like there's a good system in some European countries for heroin where they give heroin on prescription, and it's worked out quite well because like there's been no overdoses, like the people getting it on prescription don't have to steal anymore because they're getting it for free. But then when it comes to other shit, like I don't know how you would legalize meth, you know, because or
Right.
cocaine, like I don't know, because there's like I don't think we should punish people for it, but I don't know how that would work in real life, you know. I mean maybe there's a way to do it. I just don't know what it is. I think that's something for the doctors to decide.
I
mean, shouldn't it be like people are adults, right? They want to use drugs, they want to use meth, they want to use coke.
Yeah.
Should be their free
I think
choice.
that they should be allowed to do that, but at the same time, like I don't know, like how realistically how you're gonna convince voters to go for it as well, you know, it's in a way that they feel safe, because obviously
Well, that's
a lot
what
of
they
people have this
think about.
exaggerated idea about a lot of drugs as well.
Well, they allow alcohol and cigarettes.
Cannabis.
Yeah, true.
That was the thought.
How do you sell that
nobody-
idea? That's the
I got the solution for meth. You guys ready for this?
Yeah.
So here we go. We make meth legal, but the requirement is, you know, those bikes that you jump on and you spin and they create like energy. You got to give back to the grid, man.
Have a
At
heart
least-
attack.
Oh shit! Then we
Yo,
solve climate
they
change.
send
at
them
the
to your
same
house for
time.
free. It's like a state program. They send the bikes to your house for free.
Exactly.
You get back to the
I
grid.
do all the meth you
Global
want,
warming.
but put your time on the bike.
Yeah.
Greta Thunberg's gonna love that.
It's all about global warming, Seth.
Exactly.
Yo,
Sustainability.
for real.
You were never into drugs, Seth, right? You were just too much of an athlete.
No, I drank a lot, and so that was my. I mean, my family drank, and that was just kind of normal. And then, you know, when I partied hard, but it was like, you know, I'm Swedish, so it was like we can grog it up with the best of them. So that was my vice for sure, but not drugs for my life.
Not drugs.
No.
I just saw someone commented Nobel Prize worthy.
The
Yeah,
bike, the bike
the bike.
idea.
Yes, catching
Yeah.
on.
Yeah, I got the
Al
I got
Gore.
the patent. Yeah, Al Gore. Yeah, me and Al gonna.
Stop in it. But Seth, going back to as a professional athlete, you've told me that there were plenty of guys that you played with at a very high level, and somehow or another, they were able to take a lot of, just party their brains out and still play every day.
I don't know how they functioned after this, after the night and even the day before and the day of, and I mean, it was nuts. Like, one of the things that was interesting that I saw in Europe that I hadn't seen in the States was, like, at halftime, like, you know, guys are smoking, you know, the guys would crack a beer at halftime.
Damn.
Like, yeah, I was like, what the, at halftime, like, of a game. Like, I'm like, what is happening here? Like, you know,
That's wild.
10,000 people out there. We're just chilling, having a beer. What the fuck? We got a game.
That's something I have to do.
What was that chick from Texas? Like, she wasn't allowed to run the Olympics because she smoked some pot.
Yeah, some old bullshit in the game. That's some bullshit in the game right there. That's when you see privilege taken, like, that's when you have privilege and power being misused, man. And you know what I mean? It's a bunch of bullshit, man. You know how the game goes.
And I was thinking, if anything, they should just give her a handicap, just give her a head start. Because if you're smoking weed, the only thing that's really good for, the only sport that's good for is like a chocolate donut eating contest. You know what I'm saying?
It's not an athletic enhancing drug.
Exactly.
If you would. Substance. Let's call it a
substance.
substance.
I'm so relaxed. I'm so flexible.
Yeah, exactly. I can't even run that good. Yeah, exactly. Come on, man.
It's the last thing I want to do.
So wait a second, Divine. Are you saying that with the Olympics coming up, because we are nothing if not very topical here on the yard, are you saying that in general, there should be no restrictions against people, you know, doping or, you know, performance?
Hold on. Doping? Meaning doping or smoking weed?
Doping. No. Doping in the athletic sense, that they're taking steroids for performance.
I mean, yes, that's a different thing, though. Steroids, classification of those type of drugs are definitely something I don't condone that. I mean, if that's what the rules are, that's what the rules are. But you're going to penalize this young woman for smoking some marijuana, cannabis, like I don't see it. Like, I don't see the.
I don't either.
Exactly. I don't think it's fair. I don't think it's right. But you know, it's how the game goes, man. Anybody else would have been a different thing.
You know, there's a lot of talk about, this has nothing to do with drugs, but we are talking about the Olympics. There's a lot of talk about what different athletes, how they're going to be expressing political statements, you know, that they feel strongly about. And I was reading in the paper today, Tommy Jet Smith, who was one of the athletes.
Exactly. Yep, I'm about to say that. Yep.
With
Do the black fist up.
Right. And which at the time was, you know, an incredible statement. He said he's spoken to a lot of athletes, and a lot of people are planning all sorts of things, you know, to express their outrage and their feelings.
I mean, the same thing with Cap taking a knee. I mean, it's the same expression, right?
Yep.
And there's a weird situation here in the UK with taking a knee. I don't know how much you follow soccer in the States, probably not at all. But there was the Euros, like the European Soccer Championships, and at the start of them, like the whole UK team decided that they take a knee in solidarity, right? And then, like, obviously, like you know what English like soccer fans are like, you know, like English soccer hooligans, they're like booing that shit, and you know they weren't supporting their own team just because they were taking a knee. But then it was like then England almost won. We only got beat by Italy, so we got to the finals, and everyone was suddenly saying, you know, like maybe if they started taking the knee earlier, would have won faster. But then then we lost to Italy, and then like all this racial abuse just started all over again, you know. So it's just because people only supported it when they thought they were winning, you know, or when they thought it was convenient for them.
Yeah.
Getting back to drugs, particularly in the UK.
Have you said that statement ever in your life before, Richard? I bet that's not the first time you've said that statement. I just like to put that on record. So getting back to drugs.
I'm the adult in the room here. So I lived in London for about 4 or 5 months, And I could not, in London at least, where there's this whole pub culture where everybody goes out, you're with old people and young people, whatever, that you're allowed to drink outside the pub. Where in the United States, you're not allowed to do that. You can't leave the establishment. But
That's
in the
Vegas.
UK, in London, you can just hang out outside with your pint of whatever. And when I was there, there was this huge scandal going on because it was the women who were getting drunk, like obliterated every night. And on the tube, there were just every night, there were all these fights of women just going crazy and throwing bottles at each other and shit like that. A sort of an abusive, a self-abusive kind of culture there. Do people in the UK, like, do they overdo it with drugs and drinking? Is that fair?
I think we're probably the most hard. Yeah, I even looked at the stats. We're probably the most hard partying nation in Europe. If you're going by drinking rates and drug use, I think the only country that's ahead of us is Spain. But then you have to think that a lot of those numbers from Spain, they're just English guys on holiday, right? So we're just bulking up Spain's statistics.
Barcelona.
We're fucking fiends over here, man.
I couldn't believe that these young girls, they came from work, they were nicely dressed, and they would get hammered and then get in fist fights outside the pub, like every night. It was crazy. It was your type of, crowd, Seth.
That's me. Yeah, let's do it.
Let's do it. Let's throw down.
It's sloppy.
Do you still have any friends still in prison, Nico?
Yeah, I mean, not right now that I can think of, but there's like a couple of guys who go on and off. I remember there's this one guy, this Colombian guy. So when I met him, he was in pro fighting, and then like, a couple of years later, when I had like a more respectable journalism career, he wrote me an email saying if I could be his like character reference for the judge, because he was about to get sent down for money laundering and fraud, and he needed, because like one thing you can do to reduce your sentence here in the UK is if you have someone of character vouching for you, then the judge will take that into consideration. I just thought it's fucking funny that he got me to do it, but I don't think they really fucking check those things. So I could have just forged the letter, signed Barack Obama or whatever. They wouldn't look that up.
MP or something.
Sorry?
Like you were an MP, a member of parliament.
Yeah. The Right Honorable Niko Vorobyov.
Let him go. Let him go.
Do that again, D. Let's hear
Let
your
him
English.
go. Let him go.
I say, let him go.
I could see uniting somebody.
I know, right?
Do you feel any connection to people, who come out of prison, or any interest in trying to help them in some way, or giving back, or any of that? Do you have any of that in you, Nico?
Me, I've worked with some NGOs who are helping, like in Russia. I volunteered with this group, which is one of the only groups in the country because the government likes shutting them down. So we're helping a lot. It's not specifically people from prison, but they get a lot of people from prison in it because it's helping people like with serious drug problems. So like they gave them like legal advice and like tips how to use safely, and like try to set them up with jobs and stuff. It's not so much like ex-convicts, but you have a lot of ex-convicts in it. Yeah.
Would you say that like the UK versus Russia like is like the drug rampantness or whatever is more? I thought so. I played basketball in Russia for a year, and it was great basketball, a lot of fun. But I just gotten off the plane, went to practice. The person that owned the team also owned a couple clubs in the city that I was in, and so we go to dinner, and I'm straight from practice, still in my practice gear, and I go on, I go to this table, and it's kind of family style, and meeting the owner and all this, and they put these clear jugs of what I thought was water on the table, and I'm like, shit, great, 'cause I'm thirsty, like I just got done with practice, like, and so I fill up a glass full of what I think is water, and no ice, because nobody uses ice in Europe, right? Like, so it's no big deal. And exactly. So I fill this thing up, and I just start chugging it. And about halfway down the glass, I realize it's not water, and it was just straight vodka. But it took me a minute to like figure that out. But then they were like, that was just the thing, what I mean? Just like vodka everywhere, what I mean? And all the stuff going on is that they went pretty hard is the point that I'm trying to make. And I'm trying to see if like
Where are you going with this, Seth?
huh?
Other than the fact that it takes you to drink a whole glass before you realize it's not water.
I used to be pretty good.
Your senses are not all that keen.
Where are you going with this? Did you hear me preface it saying that I was thirsty?
Yeah, he didn't give a fuck. He was drinking.
I didn't know.
I think you just drank that glass.
It was also, it was small in my hand. But is it worse in Russia than UK, like with drugs specifically, or is it?
I think with drinking, Russians know how to handle their drink better, because in Russia no one really drinks on empty stomach.
Yeah.
We like to have that. We like to have that balance.
Smart.
Whereas in England, like you were saying, like you just go to pubs, get fucked up, and start fights. We don't in England. We don't really know how to handle our liquor.
They drink for dinner.
Yeah.
True. Well, the food's not that great in general, so
I think that's the whole reason to drink is that we're going to be fighting later on. That's the whole excitement of it all.
It'll work out.
Exactly. Let's go. We're going to fight. Let's have some drinks.
Wait, let me stretch.
Let's have a drink before the fight.
Exactly. It's like the precursor, the prelude.
So, do you spend any time in the United States, Niko?
Yeah, I learn English there. That's why my accent's a little bit here and there.
No, you speak well, but a little more recently, I'm saying. Do you come back and forth from time to time?
I don't think I'm allowed back in. You guys don't like convicted drug dealers over there.
Sound like Canada.
But
yeah, we're not allowed to go into Canada.
Exactly.
Anybody can go.
You commit a crime, you can't go into Canada.
I really hope that
pretty low if they won't let you in Canada.
aren't listening in. But I think it'll be that hard for me to get in though, because unless you're like wanted by Interpol or something, like what are the chances that they're gonna check my passport?
Playing those odds worked so well for you the first time. Like, let's roll the dice again.
I learned nothing.
Pizza guy and the cop show at the same time.
I think the odds are very good that they'll catch you, actually. If you're not
probably pretty good the first time too.
Be careful and watch out for the dogs. All right, Niko, is there anything you're working on now that you would like us to know about, or some way we can support your work, or look for your next book, or you tell us?
I don't know. If you guys, I'm a publicity whore. I never turn down an interview or podcast or whatever. So if anyone wants to holler at me, I'm always open. I'm always on all the social medias except TikTok. I refuse to get TikTok.
Just a matter of time, bro.
TikTok for me is just like
TikTok is taking over, man.
TikTok's taking over.
Are you guys on TikTok?
I'm on there, but I don't use it. But TikTok is like people are just like crazy with it.
Yep.
TikTok. Maybe I should start an OnlyFans. Get on that. That seems to be popular these days.
Yeah,
what is it?
OnlyFans.
Oh shit! You guys read there was like a story like these guys in a Mexican jail. They started an OnlyFans.
Oh my god!
Come on, stop, bro. What the hell were they doing? Making hooch? Hopefully,
I guess you have to sign up. It's like a members only.
I'm good now. I'm not signing up. I'm good with that. I'm good with that.
We'll use D's login.
Yeah, right.
All right. Speaking of D, do you have anything you want to share before we say goodnight?
Nah, man, it was great. Yo, Nico, it was good, interviewing you and vibing with you, man. You got a great spirit. Keep up the great work, man. You changed your life, man. Keep it going. Don't give up. Continue to believe in yourself and, inspire other people, man. Also, join Commissary Club. Create an account. Come on there. Be somebody of resource. Be somebody of knowledge, information. Share your story. And I'm sure there's a lot of great stories that you could write about from people you engage on Commissary Club.
We'll
Yeah.
do, man. We'll do.
Yeah, great idea. Seth, do you want to add something?
This is a lot of fun. I appreciate you coming on for sure. And any way we can support your work and all that. Again, I mean, the drug culture is definitely, it's a strange thing. I mean, from the legalities of it, from the desire for it and all that. So I think the more awareness that comes around that, the better it is to, get a logical and solution for it, and, if you want to use my idea about, giving back to the grid, it's yours. We'll do a 50-50, man. I'm with you on that.
Revenue share on that.
Revenue share, exactly.
Rev share.
No, I appreciate you coming on.
Yeah.
Try the next Olympics.
So there's a number of links that Adrian has posted and that you can follow Nico and his work. He's written some really amazing stuff in Vice, I've read, really interesting things and sort of unsettling, surprising things. So this is a fertile mind operating in a very interesting space. So we very much appreciate you staying up late and putting up with us and joining us, and you're always welcome. We at Commissary Club and 70 Million Jobs, we are so thrilled by what's happening with jobs for the population we serve. There's a direct correlation, as many people know, between unemployment and recidivism. And when people get jobs, they almost never, ever get in trouble again. It truly is the silver bullet. So, if you know people who can hire, definitely consider hiring folks with records. It turns out they actually make excellent employees. And as Divine pointed out, please check out Commissary Club and post there and share stuff and ask questions. There's some great people there already, and I don't even know how they found it because we haven't launched anything yet, but there's a lot of people there already. So we think, before we got started in business, we spoke to a lot of people with records and we said, what do you need? What do you want? Where's the pain? And almost every one of them said, we need jobs and we need community. The job part we knew, the community thing really surprised us, how important that is to this population. I was on a podcast with a friend of ours named Jeff Grant, and he does a white collar once a week thing. And I'd never been there before. And I felt like, I was part of a community and it was really meaningful to me. So we just ask everybody we should support each other. We need to look after each other. We need to, if we don't help each other, nobody's going to. That much is for sure. But together, in the United States, there's 70 million people with records. That's 1 in 3 adults. We could elect any president we wanted. We can change the laws, and we can certainly help each other out by being role models and inspirations. And I think the world would be a better place if more of us did that. So thank you all once again for joining us. We will be back next week. We will inevitably have another very interesting guest who will bring a different perspective. We try to really shake it up, and we thank you so much. Be safe, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you,
Good
Nico.
night, everybody.
Thanks, Nico.
Good night, everyone. Thanks for having me.
Peace, everybody.